LANCESCURV here. We're going to laugh tonight. We're going to talk serious tonight. I don't know where I'm going. I'm going to cut a few words tonight. We haven't done a funny one in a long time. And I just want to say, as a disclaimer, so I don't get cussed out in the future, when this becomes a video in the comment section, that I'm not talking about spirituality. I'm not speaking about the Holy Spirit. I'm not speaking about anything real. I'm speaking about this scab of religion that has been put on us, brainwashed us, have us acting a fool. Now, as far as Black folks are concerned, I think I'm qualified to speak about Black folks and the Black experience, how dysfunctional we are. And there's a reason for that. I mean, we've been through some of the worst treatment, some of them, the worst treatment, right? So I'm going to put that out there too. But there's a comedy, there's a comical side to us, and there's a really cutting, slicing side to us. So I wanted to cover a couple bases tonight. I'm beginning on the church and the Black folks, the holy roll of Negro dysfunctions, because a lot of us, we have dysfunctions to the point so much that it's become normalcy. You know, and I'm not saying all of us is really bad, but we all, no matter who you are, in this world as dysfunctional as it is, we all have a bit of dysfunction that we're struggling with or dealing with that we consider normal, right? So anybody trying to bleep me up on the phone, I just cut the phone off so they'll be wasting their time. I want to focus in on from the heart and speak, and we're going to be funny with it. But this show idea, because every now and then, you know, I go in on the Black church every now and then. If it's a wayward pastor, which two of them got past me, you know, the last couple of days that I was going to do, and I'll probably have a chance to come back and do it again. Let me know how the sound is, if the sound quality is okay. Yes, Landon Price, Scrooge Greedy, Xavier B, Chance Rogers, we be scurving them. Yes, we are. Live for the motherland, Ghana, West Africa. Now, whoever doesn't like that, I got so much to talk about, you know, but this came out of a conversation that I had with a dear friend, private conversation, but I'll extract this part of it out. And we were speaking about family members, dysfunctional family members. I expanded it out to the church for this, but it's interchangeable. Black families, dysfunctional families, church folk, it's all rolled up in one, right? But I have some notes I jotted down of things that I wanted to make sure not to miss. You know, I mean, we've been through some really bad hardship and struggle, you know, and we have these unspoken jealousies and resentments when especially in our families, when younger folks try to do better. This is not every single Black family, but I've seen this before. And then it reminded me of the church and some of the elders who saw, the ushers that saw a well-shaped younger sister who was coming in there sincerely, but she hated her because she had a nice butt and nice breasts and a little waist, but she wasn't coming there for that. So she gonna, we got some hangups that people got hangups, and there's things we can't help. You're the jealous old man because he knows you're young and virile and your thing is working and you're a handsome young man. He gonna give you hell or try to block you. You know what I mean? Or try to discourage you. And this is in families, and this is in the church, big time. And I hate it. And it's still there. This is 2025, and we walking around with our dysfunctions like it's something mandatory. I'm not saying other races and cultures are perfect, but we a special breed, y'all. We a special breed, and we still rolling with this ignorance. You know, it's too much, and I got to call it out. And I'm going to talk about some real stuff that I dealt with, real stuff that I saw with my own eyes, and how families do each other in church communities and just Black families all together. You know, so where do I start? Where do I start? The pain, it hits deeper when it comes from people you trust, your parents, uncles, aunties, even grandparents or siblings. The ones who are supposed to support you might end up being the first ones to clip your wings or try to clip your wings because your growth reminds them of their missed opportunities and chances because they were raised to think struggle equals honor. Now, see, we got a problem with that. Struggle equaling honor. Let's just talk about that one part there. Let's make this up. I'm just, you know, I love all my black people, even though a lot of black people in America don't like me because I'm in Ghana. Oh, yeah. I was going to say something, but I promised not to say something. People hating for what? You work hard all your life. You're still struggling and pushing hard to achieve something. You achieve it, and all of a sudden people turn on you. It's crazy. And me, I'm not going to say I'm a public figure. I'm just a dude who does his social media stuff. I have no blown up head. You can call me on the phone and reach me. You can throw me a text, I answer back. Right, Xavier? Right? I'm not somebody sitting on some mountaintop thinking I'm something. You know, but this thing with struggle, meaning honor. Look, let's talk about it. We got people back in the day who were raised in the South. No shade on the South. This is what it is. We all know that we had a mass migration from the South to the North. What, like the 40s, 50s, 40s, late 30s, jobs were up there in the North. And there was such treacherous behavior going on down in the South. It was still like slavery was around. I mean, all over America is still that way. They just cover it up a little bit. Like my saying that I always say, you have the right to take chocolate icing and smear it over feces, but you don't have the right to call it chocolate cake. You understand? So when we had this go on, and we had a lot of black folks that were in the biggest city that were raised in the South, and maybe their mother or their father, you know, might have picked some cotton or worked on, you know, that's just what it was. Worked on the railroad, maybe, you know, did the treatment that they had, the opportunities that they didn't have, and the whole church culture. Now you come to the North, the big city, and now you have children. They're born in New York. They're born in Detroit. They're born in Chicago. They're born in Philadelphia, different cities up north. And they're going to school, and things are still rough with the racism, not as bad and overt, but it's there. I had to deal with it coming up. You see what I mean? But the opportunities were a little better. Now we come up into the computer age, right? And there were other opportunities after that. And so we had a lot of the parents or grandparents that kind of hated on their children. I'm not saying every black family, but that's one dysfunction I wanted to talk about. They want to clip your wings sometime because they're resentful of the opportunities that you have. I never had that in my family, but I've seen families with that, straight up jealousy, envy on their children. And they're trying hard and they're doing the right thing. But these particular parents and grandparents, they act like, you know, a company comes around, yeah, he's doing good in school. I'm so proud of my boy. But then when the company leaves, you're subtly trying to clip their wings and make them feel funny. And I don't like that. I've seen that. And I've seen a lot of lives destroyed because of that. There's one particular family, church family that I knew. I won't say too much details on who it is because they might be listening. And really and truly, I don't care, but I'm still going to give respect. You know, there was a young lady in the family who she's got to about maybe 15, 16. Of course, you get to that age, you're looking at boys. Not that back then in the 70s, you're going to, oh, I'm going to have sex with this one or whatever. You know, it's a little crazier now and sex was going on back then. But there was a party going on around the corner, and that, you know, it was a decent family who was having this party. And so the daughter asked the mother, can I go to the party? And she said no. Now the mother was a nice lady, but she was real strict with the Bible as it was back then to the letter of the law, and it was really unreasonable. She wasn't going around. And I knew this young lady too, real good. She used to braid my hair, you know, like you get your hair braided and whatnot. I had a little crush on her, but I would never try her. I was a decent young guy, but the older women, then it was on and popping. But nobody that I respected and knew their family, I would never do that with somebody in my tribe. So she snuck out. She snuck out. And she danced like there was no tomorrow. You know, she danced and danced and danced. And I was like a year older. I had a lot more freedom. You know, I went around the corner and she was dancing. And she wasn't undulating in some bad way. But she threw her back out. Pinched nerve. Could hardly walk. And from what I heard directly, the mother was mad, more so that she went to the party. And she was like, the devil is paying you back for what you did. Well, heck, the way she was swinging her backside, I don't think the devil was mad at that, even though that wasn't her intent, and she was real shapely. So when it came time to get help, to go to a chiropractor, she didn't take the daughter. So the daughter was walking up with, and I have to describe it, like she's walking sideways a little bit, because her back was hurting. So it's a pinched nerve, sciatic nerve. I had it first in 1984. I was training heavy. I was eating a lot of food. I was trying to put on more weight. My competitive season was over. Bang! Man, that thing followed me for the rest of my life. But enough of that one. But we knew what it was, but she would never take her. And she was walking on one leg more than the other because of the pain. And because of that, and I'm not being lewd, I'm just telling you what it is, her left butt cheek was starting to shrink. This is over the years. And her left leg was starting to shrink because she was walking on one leg more than the other because of the back and walking with the back curve, almost sideways. Pretty woman, pretty girl, nice chocolate, pretty beautiful. I liked her, but I couldn't do that. That's just something I don't do. If I have friends back then, I didn't mess with their sisters or if you were a cool friend of mine and you broke up with a girl, I don't go after her because you're going to think now that, well, you always were thinking about that. No, I don't do that. Back then, if I didn't know you, that's open field, right? But she had an esteem issue because of that. In those years of 16, 17, 18, the 20s, she ended up not doing much with her life. She didn't even work. She was so heartbroken. Her image, how she felt about herself. And it wasn't that she felt so high about herself in the first place. She's a beautiful young lady, but the whole religion thing kept her down. It was like she was cursed because of her looks, cursed because of her shape. The devil this and the devil that. And you got to watch these pastors and these so-called men of God because they'll see a shapely young lady, want her deep down and want to accuse her of being some devil because you thinking something. Don't put that on her. The female body is a beautiful thing. I see it. It's a beautiful thing. I'm an artist, But these guys want to superimpose their feelings and chastise the most beautiful women that they see. And they're scared and they hide down and push back their sexuality. It doesn't mean they're not going to be out there running around in the street. It's a natural process. This is why when you go to the Black church, there's so much sexual tension there. So much sexual tension because you have to repress it to act holy. But you have some sisters now that have shapes that they can't hide. I'm not even, and some come there on purpose looking for a man. I know that. But what I'm saying is that you can't, what are you supposed to wear, a burlap sack, a tent or something? A smock? That's the way God made the female body. Some use it for their advantage. Some are coming there innocent. And you can't blame people unless you know what's up. And this is the other thing I want to stick in there that really has no point with it, but stop blaming the devil on stuff you want to do. Oh, and when you do it, the devil got into me. No, you got hormones, you have a penis, you have a blood flow, and you have an imagination, and you didn't fall into it. You talked her into it, you seduced her into it, and you got what you wanted. And now when she comes back, pray, the devil got into me. Well, you're going to pay for the devil this day, brother. You're going to pay that child support. You're going to have to pay for something. Find the devil for me. We'll make him pay. You understand? But you had something to do with that. You made up your mind. Other things that, and I'm bouncing between just general Black families and the Black church, but toward the end, I'm going to do more on the Black church because I'm going to tell some stories. But there's a lot of discouragement, and that's what the conversation, I started out this way, and I said, let me just get it a little broader, right? But common things they say to discourage you. Back in my day, We didn't have it easy like you. That's what are we supposed to do? Aren't we supposed to advance and do better? Hating older folks. You know, there's things I can see that younger folks have that I didn't have. I'm not envious because I'm not sitting down on somebody's rocking chair on somebody's porch being nosy on what's going on in the neighborhood. I might be 62 years old, but I'm just as out there getting it online like anybody else. And my life is bigger than what goes online. You understand? I push every day mentally. I have no time to sit down. It's like when you skim a rock. You're at the lake and you take a pebble and you throw it sideways real hard. Choop, choop, choop. You get 3 skips out of it. Somebody comes by and gets 4. And there's always that little white kid that comes by and say, but 80 pounds, and he gets 5, 6 skips out the bad boy. See, when you have movement going on, you can't fall, right? When you're riding a bike, you got a good speed going on, and it's a slight hill. You can take your hands off the bad boy. You can lean a little bit and steer it without touching the steering wheel because you have movement. But stand up on the bike and with no movement and see how long you can sit there without hopping. Movement keeps you from falling. I'm too busy getting mine, doing for others as they need when you ask me something, and just interested in the wonderful life that's here instead of hating on younger folks. Look, I'm 62. My ding ding don't work like when it was 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 and beyond. I'm not mad at nobody. I don't even want all that like I used to before. How am I going to be mad? This is the way life is. I remember there were some dudes that used to hate me, older dudes. Yeah, you're going to mess around and you're going to get that thing. What are you talking about? Because I'm getting that thing. You talking about getting that thing, HIV or herpes or whatever have you. You're the one with the Viagra pills and trying to get it on the slide. And that's why older folks are the ones getting a lot of these sexually transmitted diseases. I hope you know that. Somehow, some way I found out in Florida. Oh God, it's more toward Lake County. They had retirement homes, but it wasn't like folks in their 90s. Oh yeah, you can be in your 90s or whatnot. But what I'm saying is like 50s, 60s, 70s. And I forgot the name of this really huge complex. And they were saying a person who was in the know, who was in nursing, and she worked in the jail, but she also had some type of side gig working in that complex with some medical doctor, whatever have you. And she told me, you would not believe the amount of HIV over there. These old white folks screwing each other. They got their retirement. They slipping next door, slipping here. And the old white women, old white men, like, what? Yeah, in their 70s, late 60s, and one or two of them, 82. My God, dog. More power to you. Be careful out there. Yeah. Another thing they say, you think you're better than us now. That's your family. That's other black folks. That's church folk. So there are people out here who already have a glass ceiling created for you. You understand? Like you can't go no further. My mother told me, I want to see you go higher than we've ever been. That validates their life and everything that they went through. Any proper parent is not going to be resentful to their children or family member. I know some hateful aunts, some hateful uncles. And this is one with the church folk. I was dating a young lady. Half of her family was molested by the father, but he was up in church every Sunday, right? And the young lady I was dating, I was like about what? 18. Yeah, it was 18. 17 going into 18. It didn't last long, but it was what it was. So she's walking up the steps in the house, and the uncle, the father's brother who was there talking to him, positioned himself at the bottom of the steps. And I was standing there a little distance away, and she was going to go up and change and come down, and we were going to go somewhere. I couldn't even move my mouth. I was so shocked. When she was walking up the steps with the skirt, it wasn't no short skirt or anything like that, but he positioned himself and he tried to look up under her skirt. I was in shock. I wasn't going to beat the man down because of what he did. I was going to tell her I was younger. And the father saw what the uncle was doing, and they both started laughing. Because the father was running to the children too. But they in church. They in church. Saved and sanctified, falling out in the spirit, and you actively doing this, and you're hating on your kids. The other thing they'll say, you're not ready for that kind of responsibility. Well, when is a young person ready? When they're doing good, they're in school, whether they're in school doing a trade or just keeping out of trouble, working a job, but they want to ascend, you do everything you can for them. But again, this extends to other family members also. And you have a lot of this stuff going on in the Black church. You have them church ushers and church sisters and women in the church. And you say, for example, look, college is not the epitome for me, but I'm not going to knock it. Okay, there's certain things that if you do them, you have to have a degree, even though the market sucks. I know a lot of people working at McDonald's or Walmart and got good degrees. I'm not knocking McDonald's or Walmart. You got to do what you got to do. If I was in the workforce right now and I didn't have a job, I will work at McDonald's. Yes, ain't that LANCESCURV? Yeah, he flipping some good burgers. Listen, you follow my channel? Listen, I'm gonna slap a little extra meat on there for you. I'm gonna give you an extra order of fries. like, share, and subscribe. Right? But it's a state of mind. This crusty old energy. I'm older and I ain't got no problem with it. Because my energy is not old and crusty. I am just as enthusiastic for tomorrow as anybody half my age, a third of my age. When it's time for me to go and transition the day before, unless I'm deathly ill and can't, but I'm going to run to the end. I love this. I love people that I've known growing up that were elders that had that same kind of energy. Singers and spoken word people and church people who are good. I'm not saying all church people are bad, but of all the places in the Black community, it should not be there and it shouldn't be in our family. We had to deal with racism so bad and still do. We got the digital racism now. Stuff sneaking up on us. We don't even know what the heck is going on. And we got time to be hating on our family, in-laws, and just hating, want to destroy the person because they see the light in you that you can do something they can't do. Well, if there's something that they do that they can't do, there's something you can do that they can't do. You just have to take your time and stop being nosy and so hateful and find out what it is. Damn. You know what I mean? And I call it out. Now, when I see certain things, I call it out big time. I don't care if I'm in the Walmart checkout line, which out here in Ghana, there's no Walmarts. They got the Palace Mall, the Palace Market. It's bigger. I'm going to take my camera, my phone, and go through there and show you. Like, oh, God, dog. Like, you got to take a train to get to the other side of the daggone store. It's not that big. But I'm going to call it out, and we all need to call it out. So the other one is to discourage you. So where's the money coming from? That's the other thing, but Caribbean style, I'm going to get on them. My father was not a typical Jamaican. He wasn't one of them bumperclot, gold teeth wearing. He was a man. Conservative, meaning that he wasn't with the BS, and he stood for whatever. He didn't go for no bull crap around him either. You understand? So I've heard Jamaicans that when you in Caribbean, Trinidad, Barbados, but I'm saying Jamaican because of my proximity to that community, that country, right? I've heard people say to their young folks and even their spouses who may be positive and they're projecting on something. They say, I want to open up a small shop. I say about 1.5 years from now, 2 years tops, right? Or I want to get a couple cars together and open up a cab stand. Like nothing that's impossible. And what do they say? These elders who want to shoot them down? You got money for that? You got money? I hate that because I've heard it in other families in that community. You got money. So what are you supposed to do? Well, I don't have the money now. Let me just go sit down and be defeated. I don't like that. So me being raised in a positive atmosphere, it's my job to be positive and inspire those on that level. Yeah, I get cranky sometimes and I call out a lot of stuff. I'm human like anybody else. but I keep on going, keep on going. If you get knocked down, you get up and you keep going. See, even February last year, when they took the channel that had almost 6,000 videos, didn't I do a video the next day and keep going and keep going and keep going? Now we're over a year away. I've accrued new stuff and I'm uploading the old stuff on different platforms. I walk it the way I talk it. And I don't like to see that. And when people come at me like that, even in a subtle way, I smash them. I can smash them back on a subtle way. But the biggest thing you can do is be successful. Be successful. Shine. I've had a lot of underhanded things done to me from people that I thought were in my inner circle, but they were so envious of what I do. Envious of who I am. I'm unique. I love me. I'm not caught up into myself. I'm very giving. I've had people that have way more money than me, way more freedom than me, come together and plan on shutting your stuff down. Then go around and tell people, yes, his platform is going to die. What kind of mess is that? What kind of devil hell hating is that? Well, them people there, they must be irked now because things came back bigger and better before. But the underhanded things that people can do, I don't tolerate it. And from this point on, if it happens to me again or happens to anybody in my circle, I'm naming names. I'm good on the show and name names. Yes, I am. Because people are just so pathetic. You tell people sometime in the past, listen, you can't say this, you can't say that, and then they go saying the same things. You're trying to get me shut down? I'm not scared. I'm never scared. But look, if in your house, you have the rule where nobody can smoke. I'm not a smoker, but let's say I was a smoker. I'm going to come in there and start smoking? That's disrespectful. I'm breaking the rules. I can't do that. I have to be respectful. But people don't want to be respectful with your ambition. They want to shut it down because they're sitting down without a clue of what they have to do. Ain't that something? Unbelievable. Here's another one. That sounds nice, but let's be real. And I've had people speak to other people that know me, yeah, Lance is trying this, but he need to come back in the real world. I think I've done quite well. I'm not a millionaire. Maybe I'll be one soon. I don't know. I don't rate success on that. But I'm very happy. You know, I of course I need more to get things a little faster, but it's not just about money. Because when you have a desire, when you have a vision, when you have a goal, that's what your creator wants to see. The universe is going to open it up for you. See, it was no problem to sell my house and fly out here. The challenges came once I got here. And it wasn't for people who were born and raised out here. You see what I mean? People show their asses, but we defeat that. And we're here. It may have delayed a little bit here and there, but we're here because I ain't giving up. Maybe you didn't know what I was made of, fool, but I don't give up. My mother and father didn't raise me that way, and they despise that. You see what I mean? People will say, who do you think you are? You're always dreaming. You need to be more practical. People like us don't do stuff like that. I tried something like that, and it didn't work. Don't waste your time. Right? There's other ways to sabotage your drive without saying it directly. Dismissing your goals as unrealistic. They laugh and roll their eyes when you share your plans, making you second guess yourself, bringing up past mistakes. They remind you of when you failed before just to make you feel small, comparing you to others who failed. You're just like so-and-so. He tried and ended up with nothing. Questioning your intelligence or ability. Yeah, you sure you can handle that? That's a lot of work. Overloading you with doubt. Instead of helping you think things through, they drown you in fear, jealousy, hidden in the form of concern, acting like they're concerned, but they're damn jealous. See, we got so much wavelengths, man, so much frequencies, all kind of stuff. You got to be super positive to smash through this stuff. You got to have strong rockets on your spaceship to pierce through the atmosphere and go up into space. And most don't, and they're not rooting for you. And this is why most people say, don't tell too many people your plans, because you're going to activate their plans to keep you down. And that's not paranoia. Look at the society we live in now. The love is sucked out. It's like walking outside trying to breathe air and there's no air out there. Used to be more love. Yeah, there was jealousy and envy and backbiting and people cheating and doing snorting and sniffing drugs and doing prostitution. We had all those things back then. But even then, it was more love, more togetherness, more, if people felt a certain way negative towards you, a lot of them kept it to themselves. And we always had gossips. But we had to band together even more because of what we had around us with this racism and white supremacy and all this stuff. The black neighborhoods, when we got through the week successfully, after cops putting a bullet in our head or beating us up back in the day, go look at some of them old Jet magazines from the 1940s and 1950s. Those are some vicious magazines. I don't know if you can Google them, but look at the photos. They showed it. If a cop smashed a black man's head in, they showed the face all contorted, blood all over the sidewalk. If somebody was shot, they would show the body. I don't know when they stopped that, but I know, like growing up in the 60s and 70s, whatnot, there were still old magazines from the 50s, a Jet magazine, Sepia magazine, that's an old one that's not around anymore, Ebony, Essence, Jet, and there were other ones. But Jet magazine back in the day, shoot, that was no joke. And you needed to show those things to remind people that out here is no joke. But in the black community, when Friday night came, Saturday night came, even church in the morning came, Sunday morning, it was festivities because we had so much pressure on us as a culture, as a people. I remember that. And I wasn't around in the 50s. I was around in the 60s, but with my father having his business in Washington Heights, which was right above Harlem, it was all one thing. It was just a name like, oh, this street divides this and this and that. It was all black folk, man. Right? And we lived in Queens, and I was born in Manhattan. So he had his shop right there, 152nd Street and Broadway. I used to love the black love that was out there. Oh man, look, Tyler Perry, and I'm not going to say his movies are all perfect. Some people have their issues with it, but that Tyler Perry kind of feel when it's a good part of the movie, you know what I mean? Or just like the blaxploitation movies from back in the 70s and, Uptown Saturday Night and all, I was right there as a little boy absorbing that energy. I'll never forget that energy. That's why I'm the way I am now. I still got that energy. I'm trying to pass the baton on and hold on to it. This world ain't going to take it from me. And old men, they come around at the barbershop and they tell their jokes and they slip you $1 or $2. And they had the decency to ask your father. You'd whisper. They wouldn't say, and they say, hey, young man. And before I took it, I look at my father. Yeah, go ahead. You can take it. Because my father didn't want me getting used to taking money from strangers, although certain things ain't going to happen. But it was a continuity of wherever street you went on, you hear the music. People nodding their head. Let me be your rocking chair. Rock me everywhere. Oh, man. We sing this song the whole night long. And when the night's through, I might have a chance with you. I can put that song on and see the streets and see the black folks sitting on the steps that weren't hateful. My father's cousin owned a brownstone on 136th Street in Harlem. And she was an older woman. She's a little cheap, though, I can say that. But he would collect the rent for her. And we would go by to the different apartments there and collect the rent and hang out and talk on a hot summer night. It's the sweetest feeling. The spots were open. You get your fried chicken or whatever. You get your little candy, you get your little soda, get your burgers and whatnot. It was nice. And sometimes they buy extra stuff and pass it around. And we knew them. And I can close my eyes and remember that love, but I don't know this hate. We had hateful things going on back then. We had children being molested back then. And I got to tell you, for all of these Christians running around here, I'm going to call them out specifically because that's what I know. How come our children are still getting touched the way they do? Because I'll tell you this much, and this is a lowball figure. Out of all the young ladies that I dated, right? And it may be long, maybe short, maybe whatever, but they always opened up to me. They always feel like they can talk to me. And I say 75% of the women that I dated, or whether it was someone one night something, look, I never took nothing from nobody. It was agreed, right? That's life. I'm just telling it. At least 75% of them were touched by a family member or a stranger. Or no, not a stranger, but somebody out of the family. And strangers too, but it was always somebody in their circle. So you're not doing your jobs. And you got pastors like, what's his name the other day? Donnie McClurkin, talking about how, when he was young and homo men in there, the homo men in church, come on, y'all. I don't care what you are. You ain't supposed to be touching a little boy. Do what you do and lie to God and say whatever, but you're not supposed to be touching on the little boys or little girls, whatever you do. And there's sex going on in churches. I'm off topic right now, right? I'm gonna get back on, but I was feeling bad earlier. I felt like I was coming down with a cold. I've been running around here doing a lot of work. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of run down. And I just spoke to Xavier, said, man, I'm gonna do this, but I might feel a little whatever. But it's crazy what you see happening, because I've seen these things with my own two eyes. Let me get back on topic and read off a couple of my notes that I jotted down. But you got the point, because we're gonna tell some stories tonight. Let me see. Here we go. Oh, okay. I just don't want you to fail. I just don't want you to get hurt. Translation: I don't want you to succeed without me. You should wait until you're older. Translation: I missed my shot and I want you to miss yours too. It's not the right time. Translation: I'm uncomfortable with you making moves I never made. See? When siblings become silent haters, sometimes it's not just the older folks. Brothers and sisters can get cold too. And I've seen that. Grown folks not even like in their 20s, 40s and 50s, and holding on to grudges of things. What kind of family did you grow up in? And I'm gonna tell you, I don't know whether it was my sense of or appearance of normalcy, which I'm not gonna say normal, not average, right? But there's a range, right? Okay, like I said, we all been through dysfunction, more or less. I don't know, I can't tell you, only you know. But even when you had a perfect childhood, a perfect life, there was some dysfunction in there. It may not have been major. It might have been something undetectable. When you have something in your bloodstream and you don't have to worry about that because it's on such low levels, it's undetectable, it's not gonna hurt you. And then something could be so toxic, right? But we have different ranges of things, right? So women I've dated and friends, male friends that I had, lots of times there's a member of the family that would come after me because there's certain things I didn't have to deal with that they had to deal with. And it was like, oh, who you think you are? You think you better? Because I would spot certain things, but I wouldn't speak on it. Because it wasn't my place at a young age to speak on certain things, but I damn sure noticed it because I didn't have those things going on in my home. The only thing, like all of you know, that I had to deal with is I had an older brother who took to the streets and got on drugs. And he had no reason for that, but everybody has a reason, so I can't really say. I don't know his demons, you see? So technically, I'm an only child. I'm the only child between the union of my mother and father, but I have an older brother. And he's my brother. So I don't say, well, he's my half brother. But no. I don't. He's older than me or whatever, still alive, still getting high from what I hear. But that wasn't under my roof. A couple times, a couple incidents happened when my father had to get up in his ass, but that wasn't the general childhood that I had. And so that's why I despise that type of activity, but I don't hate the person who may be using, but I despise drugs. That's what pushed me the other way, to be so focused on bodybuilding. And I left it because I did not want to do the drugs. I could have kept it up, but it was sick to me. Finding out all these dudes that I admired, you want steroids? You want steroids too? You taking shots and you doing this? And then the other ones that don't have the money because steroids are expensive, but you taking a lot. They go and laying up with men to get the money for that. Something, man, I'm getting up out of this thing. They're using women to live and don't want to work. And nah, man, I don't want to be associated with that. I love bodybuilding, but I walk away from anything that I love if it's dysfunctional. I hate dysfunctions. And worse than dysfunctions, I hate people who are taking a bath in dysfunction and they in denial. That pisses me off. Face the thing that you're dealing with around you, because you got generations coming after you. And this thing gets passed down. And it's like normalcy. And Black folks are the best at this. Folks in the Black church are the best at this. Generations of idiosyncrasies and hang-ups. Right? They go to church. I might have to cut a little language. I don't know. I didn't look at the chat. Scrooge greetings. I'm eating chicken right now. That's right. Ain't gonna be quitting for nothing. Even if you don't go achieve what the world says is success. Because let me tell you, you can have so much stuff thrown at you, right? That for you to be standing with a sane mind, that is a better success than somebody who went on to get millions and millions, because that person who got the millions may not have had to go through what you had. So now you have somebody who doesn't know you and say, hey, you just barely making the money to pay for that room. What you mean you successful, right? But there are people out here who were raised in homes where the mama did crack and the father wasn't around and the mother was pulling tricks and he's peeking through the peek hole watching these dudes screw his mama, and there's no food in the refrigerator, going to school hungry and embarrassed. The kids are teasing them. I used to drive the bus, y'all. I used to hear all of this stuff. So you can't, on surface looks and just on the surface, just judge a situation or assess a situation. How do you know what that person had to come through? And it's a damn shame that some of our biggest haters come from the church or in the church and come from our own damn families. And then when you get older, they want to say to you, oh, you think you better, you don't come around, whatever. You have a right to don't feel guilty, because they will try to make you feel guilty. You doing your money right, you working hard, you busting your behind, you've helped out your family. And they don't want to do anything. I'm just saying random things. I didn't have to deal with that. I'm just saying random things I've seen and absorbed. And they don't want to go nowhere. And they're in poverty and had opportunities. You've encouraged them and say, listen, I can help you. Sometimes they fall on their feet and you say, hey, you can live with me for a couple months. And lots of times it ends up being a couple years. But you've tried. You don't have, look, just because you share DNA doesn't mean you have to support these demons when they're leaning on you and using you. And what do they say? Well, we family. So what does that mean? You supposed to go and clean up my bank account, clean out my refrigerator, drive the gas out my car, ding it up and dent it up and leave it all dirty? I'm at work and you driving up and down the street joyriding, but we family? You complaining there's no food in the refrigerator? You ate it. You complain the cable bill? You calling a person at work. You know the cable got cut off, and you home watching cable, and the person that lets you stay there is working. Well, I can't do this about it. I got to work overtime. I got to pay these bills. Oh man, I want to see that show tonight. Excuse me, let me clear my throat. Let me clear my throat. Yes, indeed. Pray that it's not a cold. But this is how they do. You know? They say, oh, it's not the right time. They're uncomfortable with you making moves they never made. It's crazy. Downplaying your wins. Anybody can do that. It's not a big deal. Being supportive around others, but not in private. They'll big you up in public, make them look good, but they ain't gonna do it in private. They're silent. And this goes for relationships also. You got spouses that don't support their mate. They'll support everybody else in their family. Like, say, for example, you marry into a dysfunctional family. The do-nothings who are barely scraping by, who don't have no real ambition, they'll get all the applause. He has a job and he's paying his bills. You're supposed to. What are they doing over and above? And here you are with great talents and abilities and ambition. And all they can do is say, well, the last time you tried, you lost a lot of money. But I'm trying. So in them situations, when there's people close to you who ignore your successes, don't share it with them. Don't even tell them what you want to do. Don't even tell them. Because they get the psychic energy, spiritual energy. They may not be into the juju, but them thinking about you and wishing you. And I'm telling you, it's real. They will say little things to pull the psychological and motivational rug from under your feet. And they just won't add on to it. If you're almost at the finish line, they ain't going to say nothing to push you to motivate you to cross it. They're silent. And when you achieve something, all those around you who are like this dysfunctional, it's almost like somebody died. It's almost like somebody died. And then when you have that spirit where they know, oh yeah, we know we're working with a real one here, we're going to have to jump up on this one. Yeah. I had a circle of friends that knew I did artwork and detailed, and I've always drawn this way from single digit ages. And there was this white guy who he had some kind of production company or something, and he needed someone to do some illustrations, and he was going to pay well. Do you know anybody who, and this is the kind of work, the same kind of style I have, and they know me so good. The guy that was supposed to do the work, he quit, and we're behind schedule. And even if we don't do all we're supposed to do, we need somebody now. We're going to pay X amount. I'm like, I found out about it. And it wasn't one of them that told. It was somebody who was standing close by. Hey, Lance, man, you know them dudes, they ain't your friend, man. I said, why? Why you say that? Well, you know, there's this dude that works over there by whatever, and he's over this production company and everything, and he needed somebody to do some artwork and some stuff. And it was going to be some good pay. You're going to get paid for the whole gig. It wasn't like so much an hour. You was going to get paid about $8,000, man, for 3 weeks work, because they were desperate. I was like, what did they say? Well, they're scratching their heads. They said, well, I wish I could help you. We don't know nobody. Oh, okay. They got blocked, smashed. I'm going to deal with you. Hey, bro, how come, man, you know, you acting kind of cold with us, man, you know, what do we do? And I told him, I said, that's foul. When you know it for sure, you say it, and then later on, you know what they're going to say? Oh, he holding a grudge. They ain't going to tell you their part in it. See, you've heard this before, and I know it's circulating around all over the internet, and I love that saying. People will go around telling people you are a monster and you're the monster, but they will never tell their part on how you became the monster, what they did to you to make you the monster. You see what I mean? I mean, I know I'm not a monster, but when you have to deal with them harshly and they know why, they'll start saying that. But the best way to do is cut these people off, whether it's family, friends, church folks, and most churches are dysfunctional, right? We're going to ease into the church stuff. I got more stuff to say, but I'm going to have it up on LANCESCURV X, the words that I said, the few words that I said. And now I'm just going to freestyle right now, right? Let me see what time it is. Oh, God, dog. Been running my mouth for 51 minutes. That happens. Mrs. Kerr was like, you were talking in your sleep last night for like 2 hours. It was an interesting story you told. I'm like, really? What was I saying? Anyway, yeah, most of these churches, I don't know. I look at it this way. Now, I don't condone hospitals, but sometimes you have to go. You know, you get your leg smashed by a car. What you going to do? Run to McDonald's? You got to go to the hospital. Just be careful with who treats you. But let's say the hospital is the best place to go, right? You're sick. You're ailing. There's something going on with you. And in a perfect world, you say, I'm going to the hospital, all right? So you go to the hospital, you get treated, and hopefully you'll be all right soon. If it's something minor, it'll be healed up quicker. If it's something major, you might have to stay for a couple of days, a couple of weeks. That's just the way it goes. But we have to understand that on a spiritual level, supposedly, the church or whatever religion you're in, your mosque, your synagogue, whatever it is, that's supposed to be the spiritual healing center. But it's just a business. For the most part, it's just a business. Now, I understand if you have a church building, the lights have to be kept on. I understand if it's cold and heat and paying taxes, paying rent, or I understand that. But it's overplayed when they start passing that offering plate around 6 times. You come a little late. Sometimes you come late on purpose. Like, did they pass the offering plate around? Yeah, they did 2 times already. I'm good. I ain't got no money this week. All of a sudden, here it come again and again and again. Hey, what is this, the installment plan in one service? Just do it. Just say you want $200 from me. Stop passing it around 5 times. Talk about, put $40 in there. They want to lock you in the church now. Lock you in the church to make you pay up money. What kind of hold up business is this? Let me sit down here. You know, I did a show one time not too long ago, and I went and sat down, and I sat right down on the ground. I didn't know I pushed the chair back, but nobody heard me. Riri, I see you. Ted Watts, AA Vibes. Yes. Colin, I'm running my mouth. I didn't see anybody, everybody else I acknowledged. Matthew White, but everybody else I hit. Yeah, we good. We good. Let me knock this off my screen. But it's definitely going back to slavery and the mental sicknesses that were put on us and the pain that we went through. That's generational. It's passed down. There's no way. There's no way. We can't see it, or we can see it when it's acted out. But that trauma, I mean, the great trauma that we had to endure. And I don't want to hear nobody else talk about, well, we had to deal with that. You know who I'm talking about, 1948. All right. You still got your name. You still got your so-called culture, right? I'm not going to go up that road because they know who they are. They look for, hey, what do you mean 1948? What were you referring to? We're not dumb. We're not dumb. But that's not an excuse. We've got to do better, and we're not doing better enough. And like I said, I'm dead serious when I say this. I'm disappointed in Black people. Overall, we should be hip to the game by now. There's enough knowledge out there, but so many of us in our trauma, which I'll give a pass for that, but you're supposed to be fighting to come up out of that. Do you want to live this way for the rest of your life? With this extreme dysfunction. And it's hard. I understand it's hard because mentally we've been busted. Even by some of us, by our forebearers, our parents, uncles, aunts, whatever, jealousy in the family, sabotage. You got to fight that with all the stuff that's generational. I understand that. But the holy role of Negro dysfunctions, there's no excuse for that because we celebrate that every week in church. How about, did you all see, it was on TikTok. I don't think it would be on Instagram or Facebook, but maybe it was. I'm not sure. Maybe it was the adult, what do they call it? Age restricted videos on YouTube. I doubt it would be there either. There was a pastor's son. I'm gonna tell it like it is. He was in the church when the church was empty. And this is the pastor's son confirmed, holding his phone up, sitting in the front row of the church. Pretty big church too. What was he doing? He was giving another dude a blowjob. He was giving another dude a blowjob in the church, in his daddy's church, and uploaded it. And what is this? I mean, I'm not going to say nothing about the father, but maybe that was his revenge on the father. Maybe the father did that, made him do that. Maybe I'm wrong. God forgive me if we got to speculate. When something happens and you're a detective, you have to go down every single possibility. You can't say, well, he doesn't look like he would. I'll pass on that one. No. I don't care who you are, you get investigated, because we have to do that. We have to keep it airtight. And we so worried about who has the new car, or is my butt big, or who's going out with who, and whose car was parked in what driveway 3 o'clock in the morning, and the husband was gone. We worry about that so much, we're not even worried about our own dysfunctions. Because you got to present that. I'm not going to speak on a religious level, but we all feel this, right? We all feel this to a point. Why are we scared of death so much? Because we know there's some kind of accountability. There's some kind of accountability for the things we've done. Hopefully, at its simplest level, what we've done good will outweigh the bad. Some say you have to only come this way and only go that way, and the only way to God is through. I didn't know God had a middleman, right? But we fear that because we know what we do. I'm not saying we're all doing something wild, but we all have something to improve on. And we work so hard to appear to be the real thing. I've said this before in different podcasts and different situations. We work so hard to look like the real thing as opposed to being the real thing. Humbly, but we want to be seen. And because we want to be seen and we put this plastic persona out there, we're hiding behind it like they don't really know who I am and what I do. Pull that damn thing off, and if you laugh, whatever, so what? I have all kind of conversations with people, and I tell them a lot of things privately that I wouldn't dare say publicly, and I will say some things publicly too. Yo, man, damn, Lance, you been through that? Yeah, I've been through that. That's why I'm at ease with myself more than I ever have been. I'm not perfect. I'm not there yet. But I've faced so many things that have tried to come at me and permeate my thinking, permeate my spiritual, and permeate my motivation. I ain't letting it happen. That's why I'm so light right now. I know people who are my age who are so encrusted and backed up with regrets and if I did this and they're dead already. They're dead. There's no hope for the future. You sitting there thinking about something that's gone that you can't bring back or change. You can change you. You can try to understand why things happened. But I know people who are in denial about things from 40 and 50 years ago. I know a dude who used to beat his woman's ass. I'm sorry to say it that way. Beat her ass. And now you're crying about why she left you. I know why I was there. How are you going to be in denial and be feeling bad about it? I'm surprised she stayed around as long as she did. We like they say, there's 3 sides of the story. Your side, the other side, and the truth. Take accountability. Clean up. We all see families like this that's on the banner. And they all look pretty much all right. We see their faces and we might not know them from before, but because we're interconnected, we still got good sides of us. We look and we feel we can relate to that. Hey, bro, can you tell me what a McDonald's is? Or excuse me, sis, my wife was looking to buy a dress like that. Where did you get it? None of them dresses right there. I ain't gonna lie. Maybe the one in the middle, but that other one there, and the one on the left, that's like second from the left, not that dress. I'm sorry. But what I'm saying is that we do have a connection that even with all of the toxic dysfunction that sits between us, we still have a way of excelling. We still have a way of shining out, even with the pain, even with the burden of the pain. But I remember, let me start getting down to some dirt now. That's what y'all came here for. That you can't lie. You want to hear it. Some of these stories I told before, I'm going to tell a few that before I sign off. Some things I never said before. And Sweet D, welcome on. And I had my chat room scrolled up so I didn't see you. Sweet D is made of these. That's the song, because Sweet D, that's what it sounds like, right? But yeah, where do I start? Let me think. Let me start out with one I never told nobody before. Oh, yeah. And a lot of these people have passed on. But if you did what you did, you did what you did. I remember being over a friend's house. And he was the older brother of the dude that was hanging out. I used to hang with his younger brother, but he was the only one there. And I was waiting for his younger brother to come on in. And he had a younger brother who was in the parents' bedroom. The parents were downstairs. And there was, I'd say she was about 4 or 5 years old. And the older brother pulled back. It wasn't even a door. It was like a sheet hanging in front of the door, right? And he screamed, "What are you doing?" And he screamed, and the younger brother said, "Oh, I just wanted to see what it felt like." He was on top of his 4 or 5-year-old sister trying to get oral sex. And the older brother was mad, but he didn't do what I thought he should have done. I wasn't right there watching. I was in the next room, but I heard that. He was mad though. But the rest of the family acted like it wasn't anything. Oh no. Like you say, "I just wanted to see what it felt like." "Oh, okay, no problem. You just wanted to see what it felt like." And how do you see what something feels like? You know what I mean? That's not, I ended up dating one of their cousins. And it was, like I said, I don't date within whatever. That was acceptable at that time because he had a big crush on me. And it was wholesome. It wasn't anything decadent. We held hands and went to movies a couple of times and kissed, and that's all it was. But she told me some things about that family, and I was like, "Oh, I don't want to hear that. Oh my God." And like I said, let's go on to some of the people I dated. There's that one family, I'm going to rehash some of the stories. I'm going to go deeper, where the uncle was looking up the steps at the young lady I was dating, trying to look up under her dress, and the father and him were laughing. "You a father? I don't care who it is." So this shows me that, we all know that incest in the Black community is a big thing. It's a hush-hush thing. And sometimes and oftentimes, to maintain the sanctity and appearance of the family order, nobody talks. Nobody talks. You better talk, because if that's done on your watch, it's your responsibility to talk. And then when you have it within the hierarchies of these churches, you better talk even more. Even if you get excommunicated, tell it. Even if more people are saying, "Oh, they're lying," it's going to come out that you're telling the truth. But this particular family, it was saturated, embedded. I'm talking about soaked in dysfunction. And then you have to think about the generations before in this bloodline, if it could be this bad. And this was 1980, 81, around in that time when I was around them. It was like even these families will have their version, and I'll explain it, of Marilyn Munster. Now, if you remember the show of the Munsters from back in the 60s, and they played it like a lot in the 70s, everybody would, Herman Munster was Frankenstein, Grandpa was a vampire, and his wife, right? You had Mama, I don't know what that was, and you had, was it the other family, the Addams family and the Munsters? Well, they both overlap. But Marilyn Munster, of course, she was a white girl, and she was supposed to be the normal one in the family, according to those of us who viewed that show. But within, and I found this very interesting, within the family, who are all vampires and ghouls and drinking blood out of ketchup bottles and all this stuff, she was the oddball. I was wise enough to put 2 and 2 together. That when you have a fully dysfunctional family, extreme dysfunction, not, and I can't say normal, acceptable levels, but lower levels where there are things that you can deal with eventually. But extreme levels. And if you're the Marilyn Munster, whether you're a woman or a man, I'm not saying you're a man dressing like a woman. I'm just saying you might be the one who deals with life and is unscathed by the dysfunction that was around you. And because you are, you'll be the odd man or odd woman out. You see what I mean? They'll treat you like you the weirdo because you may know of this family secrets, but you don't get down like that. Usually those are the ones who are the first one up out of that house when they're young. They'll be out of there. And they'll be like, oh, they'll hear stuff about their family. Okay, I know. And they usually go on to excel on their standards. I know a Marilyn Munster type out of that family, one of the sisters. She was the youngest one. She saw and knew everything that was going on. And when she got older, she did not want to be bothered with any one of them. No. Because even when she spoke out, and I remember that, she spoke out at a younger age, it was like she was violating. If you got a dusty room that needs to be dusted and somebody comes to help clean it up, you know when you start sweeping and you start dusting, dust will fly. That's temporary. But some people are so comfortable with their dysfunction that they don't want you to stir it up because they know it's a lot of work to be done if you start stirring up, because no one person is the source or how can I put it? Like there's no standalone. You have a dysfunctional family. It's not like, oh, it's his fault. Yeah, one person may have started it off, but it's a ripple effect. Somebody has to stand up to it. I'm going to throw out a few things that happened in this family that I know for a fact. A whole family was jacked up, y'all. And you would never know from the outside when they all got up and went to church. There was one of the sons. He was in the service, and when he came back out, he wasn't right in the head. He was getting down with angel dust, but he was the nicest guy you ever. He was a gentle person, very mannerable. But between the weed and the angel dust and all that stuff, and he was getting a check because all that started happening when he was away in the service. Let me just take a sip real quick, y'all. Hold on, y'all. Yeah. When I would go to check out my girlfriend, which after a while it was like, this was like amusement. I wasn't laughing to people. I was young. I was like, man, what's going on now over there? You know, but I'd always knock his door. He didn't bother nobody. He'd go out. He'd smoke his stuff outside, smoke his stuff, whatever. Now, it wasn't like he was actively doing angel dust. He did it and it messed his mind up, but all he did was weed, right? So he'd come back mellow. Hey, it's soft-spoken guy too. Hey, Lance, how you doing, man? And he would like do this weird contortion. He'd like look up and like he's cracking his neck, but he's looking up and he's stretching his face. You know, sometimes when you're shaving, some guys, I know I do, when I shave, I kind of stretch the side of my face to stretch my skin to get to the razor, can get it right. Well, he would do that, and I was like, what the hell is he doing? But I got used to it. It was not bothering anybody. So I remember, I'm going to stretch it out to make it all enjoyable. He would come to these little nightclubs around the way that we go to, because, you know, I was like an older guy, even though I was young, right? We dress up, and I always got in, even though I was 18 years old. I always got in because of my build, right? I put a little cap on. I get my girlfriend's eyeliner pencil and put a little extra mustache up top. And we'd get in. And I remember, I don't know if you remember this song, but he would go in with us and he would dance, but his dance was like a walk. And he would make them same stretch faces in his eyes. He wasn't bothering nobody, but people were like, what the hell? What's he doing? And he would get to the edge of the little dance floor because it was always like a little hole in the wall nightclub. And I don't know if anybody would remember that, if they hear this 10 years from now, but it was on Guy Brewer Boulevard, formerly New York Boulevard, right below Foch Boulevard, not too far from Baisley Park. And it was a club across from the Rochdale Village Apartments called The Scene. And this scene, you could tell it was a house that had all these pieces added on, big pieces. So when you go in, it didn't look like a house. But you can see the basic small frame house and how they added all these different parts to it. right? And so when we would be in there, and I'm dancing, and my old girlfriend's dancing, I'm dancing. She wasn't jealous. I'm dancing with other women and whatnot. Oh, you got some nice muscles. Here's my number. I know that's your girlfriend over there. So that song, Little Bit of Jazz, would come on. Just a little bit of jazz tonight makes you feel all right. That was it, 1981. And he would just walk. If he was sitting down and he heard that song, he'd stay on the dance floor, walk on the edge, and then back up. He wouldn't look behind him. So sometimes in the beginning, he'd bump into people, he'd apologize, and then he would just walk like that all night. And people stayed off that part of the dance floor. That Negro walked about 15 miles on the dance floor. Even when they're slow dancing, he's still hearing the music in his head. But he was bothered by his father. And he took it a certain way. He broke down crying and told me. He never told nobody. They thought it was angel dust. And the father was right there. Not in front of him when he was telling me, but right in the house. An extreme alcoholic. Now, mind you, these are church folks. Not really. Not in practice, but the facade, right? There was another brother who lived in the attic. See, they all were grown and lived in the house, which was cool with the parents, I guess, and then none of them were making big money. But the one who was living in the attic, the top floor, not the second floor, but way up, he'd lock his door. And the rest of the brothers and sisters had ways they kept a screwdriver in their pocket. So when he was gone, they didn't have to look for it. They just unscrewed the part out of the wall and go up there and ramble around until they found something they didn't like. Oh, he got all these water jugs up here. You know the water jugs that you turn upside down by the water cooler in the office, them big ones? Oh, he got water jugs up in here and it's full of pee. But he going to church. I'm not saying, and I saw it myself. I was nosy. I'm like, ooh, this whole place smelled like an alleyway somewhere outside of a nightclub. I mean, maybe he didn't want to get up in the middle of the night and go all the way down. I don't know, man, but don't do that and save it. That had to be months and months worth of urine up there. Dysfunction. And I figured it out. Because at least my old girlfriend, she wasn't touched by the father, but everybody else was, except the younger daughter. Everybody else was. And she was like, I think it's because something to do with my father. And I said, yeah, you know why? He's up in the attic and he doesn't want to come down because he was traumatized by your father. And even though he's a grown man now, he locks his door and he don't want to get up in the middle of the night to pee because he got to pull out his penis in the toilet and something happened. He doesn't feel right. There's something wrong. You know what I mean? Wait a second. You're in a room and there's a light that goes off, like you have multiple lights on and like something just went out and you can't figure, oh, my phone. Okay, even though it's off, I had that little charger light on it, right? But anyway, so we all deal with things in a different way. So now the one I always talked about with the flashlight. You know the flashlight story. Y'all, if you've been here around, that's the family that had the son with the flashlight. What you mean flashlight? Well, I'll tell it real quick. He was developmentally delayed, and he was hit the hardest with the sexual dysfunctions. And he would always want to tell me. I'm like, oh, I don't want to hear this. But he was a nice guy, and he looked up to me, and he took to me. But he would just talk. He would get very excited when I would come around. He's the one who used to call me Lamps. He never said Lance. Lamps is here. That's crazy. So one day we were sitting out on the front steps and I was leaning back by the gate looking up by his window. I wasn't looking at his window, but something caught my eye. I saw this light flashing every now and then. It was nighttime, but he's up there probably playing his music. He used to play these doo-wops from the 50s, and he had a tape recorder and he had a record player. And his way of escaping was to play, because he was older. He was much older than me. He was in his 30s. So he went back further, back to the 50s, back before things happened to him. That's what I figured out with him too. I mean, this was a psychoanalyst dream. I'm not saying it like it's something to be have fun with, but they would have had a field day trying to figure things out. So he would play an actual 45 RPM record, wax, and he had a tape recorder next to him with a cassette in there. And so he called himself having a radio station. So he played a song, and even though he was developmentally delayed, and for those who don't know what that means you were retarded. I know that's the way you say it now, right? Or in the hood, yo, man, he tarded. You don't even say the re, you just say tarded, right? And even he joked around with that. He didn't mind. He knew if you made a mistake as a person who wasn't retarded and he didn't like you or he had a vendetta against you, see, you think you better than me because I'm retarded. But see, I'm retarded and even I wouldn't do nothing like that. I'm like, oh, man, I never heard nobody say that like that before. So I got nosy. I said, listen, I'm going upstairs. I got to peek through his door or something. What is he doing there? He's not playing no music. What is he doing in the room with this light flashing around? So crept up the steps, and he had this glass doorknob. You know the glass doorknobs that if you pull it hard enough, it might just come out completely. You got this long metal piece, and you got to go put the other part in. But it was only one-sided because he used the little thin part to push open the door, so I can still turn it. And it took like 1,000,000 years to turn it. And you heard the springs, ling, 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 and he had music in there low, but the light was so, I got the crack open a little bit. The Joker was in the bed with a flashlight in his hand. In his left hand, because he was right-handed. And when my eyes focused, I looked up on the walls because I'd never been in his room before because his room stunk. His room was funky. He liked to be funky. He didn't like to wash. And oh boy, what a stink that was. He didn't have any problems with flies flying in that room. If they fly, oh hell no, right on out. If they couldn't get out, they were dead. Wow. Liz, for real? If you want to come on in and add a little bit more, and we're talking about all these dysfunctions and stuff, feel free. Matter of fact, I'm not forcing you. I'm just saying I'll give you the opportunity if you want. That means we can go on a little longer. So I'm going to put a link here. If you wanted to come on in, just hit that link, right? That's it right there, StreamYard. So I'm looking and I'm seeing his right hand moving, but the left hand is shining up on the wall, the ceiling, the wall above his head, down near the baseboard. The wall looked colorful. What kind of wallpaper is this? Because it was dark and he was moving around that thing fast, and my eyes, I was squinting one eye. Once I focused, nothing but pictures of nude women, right? And layers of them. Naked, all kind of, we all know the deal, you know, porn magazines, naked women. They were all sisters. And so I made a noise or something, but he continued doing what he was masturbating. And he had a flashlight in his left hand and he was jacking himself with the right. He looking around. It was funny. I wanted to laugh so hard. So I'm seeing all these pictures and my mind was blown. Got out of there. Yes. Thank you so much, Liz. I'm glad you're here. That's how we get down, different types of stuff. So, you know, it's not just this kind of stuff. I get serious. I get whatever. I get angry sometime. We have a guest come on and that's how we flow. So yeah, anytime, right? Also, I want you to sign up to up at the top of the chat room. LANCESCURVX.com will take you to Substack, where I can be a little more free with stuff. I do a lot more writing. Everything I do is going to be there. LANCESCURV.com. I'm shutting it down and pointing it over there where everything from the past will be there. So it's LANCESCURVX.com. It's free. You can go there and subscribe and you'll get like I did this live show and I have it on there, right? You'll get the immediate alert in your inbox because YouTube plays games, right? Me and them got a long history of you know, like Spy versus Spy from Mad Magazine. We always had each other. And they'll put up a notification 3 days later, a week later, if at all. So now I'm on another platform. They have nothing to do with that. and I can put my videos there so they won't be getting taken down. So, but yeah, I need another sip, y'all. I'm talking about my voice dry. But anyway, so I got out of there, and he knew I saw him. So I saw him later on that day, or that night. Hey, Lamps. I said, what's going on, man? You know, like, he called me Lamps. He didn't say Lance. Lamps, you're probably wondering what I was doing. I said, oh, brother, I saw what you were doing. I wasn't gonna hang around. But do you know why I'm doing what I'm doing? I said, yes, Liz, thank you so much. Yeah, because you wanted a sense of relief. He starts laughing. He said, no, I put all those pictures on the wall because when I used to do it, right, I used to have to hold the magazine with one hand and use my hand, and I only saw one picture. This way, I can look at a whole lot of pictures at the same time. Like, oh, my God. You know what? That was brilliant in a sick way. He was economical with it. He wanted more visual stimulation. But he was always in church. Dressed up early in the morning going to church. Yes, he was. But the father went through all of them. And his, like-minded spirits can find like-minded spirits. Because the pastor, the church that they went to, the pastor was usually up in the house screwing one of the daughters on Saturday night. Oh, Lance, so don't lie on that, man. He's a pastor. Maybe he was. No, I saw him. I see what he was doing. But we heard the bed rocking upstairs. And me and my old girlfriend, we'd be sitting on the front porch, which was enclosed, as it was in many houses in Queens at the time that were built long ago. And the door was left unlocked, or we'd see the sister come down. He's going to come by. Don't just ignore it. I'm thinking, like, who is he? But that's none of my business. The pastor had a nerve to come tipping up. And he saw me and my old girlfriend sitting there, and he knew me. That's the same one who was trying to get me to do personal training in a gym that he was going to construct to get the women to come by to work out so him and I can have our pick of the litter. He was trying to put me in. I'm like, don't put me in that, because I was in a gym a block down, and that was his offer because he had money. Well, anyway, hey, man, how you doing? That was his voice. Yeah, I'm going to, lay hands, and we're going to pray a little bit. Don't clean it up. You know what you're going up there to do. And the mother was on the first floor. The father was on the first floor because the mother had an ailment. She can walk and everything, but she had an ailment. If I say what it was, the whole world will know, and I don't want to bring no shame to them, but they seem like they didn't have any shame either. And it was so ironic because the mother, just like the son who had the pictures of all the nude women on the ceiling, on the walls, over the baseboard, he going to town. But when he hit that high point, that flashlight was on one of them pictures. He wasn't moving it around then. It was like, But wouldn't you believe it? You go downstairs, it was right next to the kitchen, that big room. They had closed off a living room, made a bedroom there. And the mother, believe it or not, had every page of the Bible tacked up and taped up on the wall, the ceiling, everywhere. Ain't that a hell of a parallel? And the husband couldn't sleep in the bed with her because of what he did. And she lost herself in religion. She totally was in denial about what the father was doing all those years. But he was too drunk and too frail to continue on doing what he did. And he was cranky. And you could see that, oh my God, you ever see a person or get around a person who drinks so much, you smell liquor on them when they didn't even drink? They're embalmed with liquor. Sauteed and simmered and saturated and, oh God, that was him. Always staggering, and when he got drunk, he would flip on you in a second. So I remember me being nice, and we knew each other quite well. There was a side of him that liked me. But I knew what he did to his kids, so I couldn't really, I just let it pass by. How are you doing? When he wasn't drunk, how are you doing? How are you doing? So the ice cream truck went by, and I heard him say that he didn't have any change. He wanted to get some ice cream. He said it to somebody who was sitting close to him. So I was working, and I said, okay, let me do a good gesture, even though he don't deserve it. But it was one of those moments, right? Ice cream man came by. I knew what he liked. I went to get some. I got some from my girlfriend and her little sister. Everybody else was gone. There's two little kids there. They went, all right, I'll get you some. I was like, wait a second. Not all of you. I'm not hooking the whole block up. I'm not trying to be broke now. It was like I made $1 million at that age. So I came back, and his buddy, who I knew was a drinking buddy, I bought him 2 of the ice creams, right? Ice cream sandwiches, 2 of them. And I brought 2 for the guy who was his buddy. I can't just give 1 or give it to 1. So when I brought it to him, he looked up at me and he flipped. So what do you think? I don't have any money? Huh? You think what are you looking at me like that for? I was very well built. I was a competitive bodybuilder at that age. And he was so ignorant. He said, and me and my friends joke about this because I told my friends about that story. He said, don't look at me strong. His alcoholic mind couldn't come up with the words. I wasn't looking at him aggressive. He just felt weak by the way I looked, And then he said, I don't want this SHIT. Get the fuck out of my yard. And took my ice cream and threw it across the street. So I stepped out. So my old girlfriend, Daddy, don't start that. Go inside. Will you go to the store for me later on? Yeah, I'll go to the store. That meant go out and get me some liquor. But they never did because he'd be knocked out asleep from the liquor he already had. But the pastor, man, everybody's sleeping to go get some rest, except my old girlfriend, because she didn't go, to go to church. That church, he had his wife, his kids. Some of them were like in their 20s, the teens. Beautiful wife. But she knew. She knew. And my old girlfriend's sister was one of 4 girlfriends. She was one of them. There were 3 other ones. And when we would go to the club, they'd brag about what the pastor did for them. Oh, pastor paid my rent. Oh, pastor bought me this diamond ring. Well, pastor gonna take me on the cruise. That ain't gonna be fun because his wife gonna be there. Well, he gonna get me a room way on the other side. This is the stuff I'm used to hearing. This wasn't my inner circle as far as my family, but it was stuff that I was exposed to. These realities. Church and decadence go hand in hand. I think I was saying before, I didn't finish it. You go to the hospital to get healed. You go to the church in your mind to get healed on a spiritual level because you're wounded somehow. But that's the worst place to go. Just like people say, well, how could you say that? Well, look at this analogy. You go to the hospital in the waiting room in the dead of winter. People coughing and sneezing and snotting. You might get something more than what you came in there with. You might have a broken leg and walk out with the worst flu because you're in there with these people who are all sick. So you have these people who look nice, they dress nice, they say the right things, but they're spiritually sick. And it's just like when I used to work in the jail and work in a prison. That's crime school. You're not rehabilitating them folks. If one car thief meets up with another car thief, they're going to compare notes and become better car thieves. They talk about the spirit of lust. Well, you come in there and, you don't have yourself in check yet. The sister there got a little tight dress on. She get ready to pay the offering, go up to the front, and you look at them panty lines. You ain't thinking about nothing holy. You think about something horny. Now, she may be innocent. She might not be thinking about that. She might be just built that way. But there might be that one that's down with it. And you'll see each other after the service and in the vestibule in the hallway. She might have sung something, and you want to tell her how nice her voice sounded. And you can discern each other's spirits. And later on that night, both of y'all taking turns on your knees and not to pray. I've seen it happen that fast. It's happened with me that fast. And I wasn't predatory. I was a young man. I'd let things happen. The times I went to church with friends or, when I was younger, I felt funny. I felt bad. Take that stuff somewhere else. So that's there. I can tell you. I told you the story about the church lady that knew my mother, but she had a thing for me. And asked me if I can come help her. That innocent, well, you're getting so big and strong. I need your muscles to come help me do stuff around the house, move some things. I'll pay you, baby. But she wasn't that old that she didn't look good. I might have been 15 years old, 16 years old. And you 48. Come on now. I mean, I'm not knocking nobody who's into a May-December relationship, but not no May, December of 2 years after that. It's too much. But she didn't hold me down and force me to do anything. I was young, dumb, and full of protein shakes. I wanted it too. It was part of the adventure. Right? I admit my stuff. So, hung around and finished and got something to eat, and the house coat falls open, and, there's a boxing match on. I got the bigger TV in my bedroom. So I sit on the chair and she sits in the bed. House coat falling all open. Oh, you don't have to sit in that chair. You can lay next to me. And it was on and popping. But how did I know that I was eventually going to be a pass around? Because the next couple of times it was me and her, and all of a sudden her friend comes over, and the friend knew. Church lady, hours before, in the spirit. But she wanted to be in a different spirit, and her friend who I was dealing with told. That's me personally. So altogether was 3 of them. And I was just getting it. Think you're a young boy, you horny, you know what I mean? You're sensible, and you can't believe it. Grown woman stuff. I don't know, young girl. Man, I don't want to be lewd, right? But I'm just saying how young guys think. Oh, these are some real titties here. Wow, that's the real stuff. And they doing stuff to you that you don't even think you deserve. You thought you'd never feel. They blowing your mind. So now you hooked. And now you know the underworld of what goes on, the decadence of what goes on. I remember the one I was telling you about that was in the service and did the angel dust, and he was smoking weed and stuff. He's a nice guy. Every Sunday afternoon after service, there was this. Everybody need love, but God, dog, this lady had to be at least right up on 60, and she looked like Jabba the Hutt. She walked like Jabba the Hutt, looked like Jabba the like she was always had perpetual mucus. I'm sorry if any of y'all are eating. But how you praise the Lord? Real short and waddled. And she would pick him up Sunday afternoon because he would help her with things around the house. He didn't care. Yo, I know we all have our limitations. And I'm not going to sit here and say I haven't done crazy things, in my life. There wasn't always beauty queens, all right? But within reason. But this situation here, we all thought that, he's going over there to help in it. He had his checks, but he gave him a little extra money. She trusted him. You know what he was going over there for? He was going over there to perform, oral on her. And he was high one time off the weed and drank a little bit. He told it. But I heard from my old girlfriend that that's what he was doing. And I went and said hi to him in his room. He said, oh, man, I spent all my check money. I can't wait till Miss So-and-so comes over tomorrow. But I'm going, he said what he was going to do good. I'm looking at him like, oh, man, this is for real. And she's a big church lady. Got a big church hat. She had bad feet, so she's one of those church ladies who walked on the back of the heel. The heel was gone. Wasn't no high heel anyway. But her back of her feet, she couldn't reach her feet. They ashy. And she was just grinding back in the back of them. And if you took that shoe off and tried to pull the back of the foot back of it up in the proper position, it wouldn't go back. She was smelly. Warts all over. I mean, I'm not putting it down, but God, dog, how did they get to that arrangement? How did they get to the point of negotiation to say, I will pay you to come and do this to me? Church lady. Church lady. Oh, yeah, sweet D. The other one's there? Yeah. But like I said, the weird thing, I'll go a little further on that other story with those 3 church ladies. It was almost ritualistic. They were using me. And I didn't mind being used at that time. And they were all open with it toward the end. And I was in the bed with one of them. I'm going to say it in a decent way. This is the juicy tonight. And I noticed that the other 2, they were disrobed slightly. You know what I mean? If you walked into that scenario and didn't see me in the bed, like, what are these 2 ladies sitting in a chair half naked? And they had their Bibles. And they were watching me and her because they were taking turns with me sometimes. Sometimes it was 2 on 1, 3 on, whatever. But they were whispering scriptures. I'm not dumb. I'm like, what the hell are they doing over here? What kind of prayer they're praying over me? What kind of ritual is this? I didn't say that. I just said I had to go to the bathroom. And my clothes were in the other room because that's where stuff started. I grabbed my clothes. I got out of there. I got in the front yard, had these big hedges. I dressed myself out there. I don't want to get dressed up in there and they say something. They couldn't have stopped me or kept me in there. But they were doing a ritual. Well, I was performing an act on that main one. And they were saying, you know, and they were looking all funny, waiting for their turn. Oh no, I'm out. Feet don't fail me now. Yeah. But see, it is a spirit thing that comes over you to get to that level of decadence. Because see, when you're dealing with decadence and you're dealing with, and I did not say, oh, the devil made me do it. No, I did it. But you can get intoxicated with this spirit of what's around you, and it opens you up, because nobody goes to the end of decadence right away. You do a little something, you get a little taste of something. I'm speaking sexual, you know. Ooh, wow, I did that. When it's not proper, you want to go further to get the same thrill. You see what I mean? That's why when you go on RedTube and YouPorn and all that, I get sent those things because I know a lot of people in the industry. Don't you know that girl, man? Yeah, I know her. Yeah. You dealt with it? Yeah. Whatever. But you need more and more. This is when you see these dirty old men and they just like, they're off the chain. Off the chain. Like they're so gone with it. But it's very specific in what they like. We all know the college young lady that always has a little extra money and she's in college, but wait, you ain't working? Well, you know, there's a guy I know and he pays me. I go over his house and we really don't have sex, but he just likes when I fart in his face. I'm like, what? The girl told me that. I talked to her a few weeks ago. I mean, she's older now. I'm going to get her to come on the show and talk about that. I'm not saying I don't trust people. I have a little discernment going on and I can still get fooled. But I don't trust the facade that people will put on. Just be real with me. You don't have to tell me what it is specifically. Just be real. All right, that's what you do. You know you got to stop it sooner or later, but you know, you're honest with yourself. You have to admit. And sometimes when you pull the strings and you keep pulling and pulling and pulling, you'd be surprised at what you find out. Different arrangements and different things. The holy roller Negro dysfunction. They're not hating on you and trying to discourage you. You talk about casting out demons? Well, we'll drop a spiritual bomb on the church. Because that's where you're going to find more sick people because they're lying to themselves, saying that I'm going there to get well. But while you're there, you're seeing kindred spirits So you end up going out drinking with, well, I'm working on this, but, I got to have a little drink. Well, I'm the same way too. You can pour me a little bit and nobody have to know. But how do you get to the point of you having groups of men who are married and who are single, groups of men? See, there is definitely something on a spiritual level that runs through these churches, runs through these families. Because when you see one situation, if it's left unchecked, something else is happening on a different level. So how is it that you have these men who are married or single, they look upright, they're praising the Lord, you know how it goes, but they all gathering up, not all of them, I'm saying 4 or 5 of them. They know they got the big secret. We're going to watch the football game together. You don't even need to put the TV on because you ain't looking at the footballs. You're looking at each other's balls bouncing off your chin. There was a group that went to this church. I was cool with the family, and that was the same family. I just wanted to see what it felt like. There's an older brother who had a crew that was around him. And I knew something was up with them. They were all into each other. It wasn't normal. It wasn't like an athletic thing. It wasn't an intellectual thing. Because you have nerds that hang out with each other. You have guys that play football, do boxing, lift weights together with each other. Some go out to the clubs and chase girls with each other. But they were always around each other, and that's all it was. Church and hanging around with each other. And there was one in particular, because it was 4 of them. The older brother of the family I hung out with at that time, and 3 other ones. All of them were gay. And I knew something was wrong. I knew something was up. Because the main one, he was always talking about the other guy's backside. Because the other guy, he was like, not shaped like a woman, but he was thigh heavy in his butt. It was almost like he's supposed to be a girl and came out as a guy. Maybe he had like low testosterone and high estrogen or something. But when he was young, he used to get teased about it. So there's one friend of his who was a church guy. I knew him well. I didn't hang out with them. I was a little younger. He would always say, I'm not going to say his name. I hope I don't slip and say it. He would say something to him in a joking manner, like a joke put down. You always late with your fat behind. You always got something to say funny with your fat behind. Wait a second, brother. Wait a second. Why are you focusing? Everything you say is on his fat behind. I never saw it that way. Look, we saw he was butt heavy. You see it. I'm not focusing on it because I was looking at female butts. All right. So, yeah. Be there at 8 o'clock, but I know you're going to be late with your fat behind. And the way he said it, they all died of AIDS, y'all. They were all doing each other. They all died of AIDS. Last one was in 94, early 94. My mother passed away in April of 94, and this one here was January of 94. And I think at that point he had to be no, he was older than me. He had to be like 37, 38. Because in 94, I was 31. Maybe he was 35. But we all didn't hang out. I mean, I didn't hang out with that crew. I hung out with his brother, but we all kind of like moved on. When I would see that particular brother in the street, he wasn't the jolly guy that he always was. Wearing dark sunglasses at night and like hardly speaking. Hey, man, how you doing? Hey, what's up? Man, we grew up together like family. I know your whole family. What you mean? Hey, what's up? I didn't say that. But it was like something was bothering him. But the church is infested with all of these different kinds of spirits. I remember being at one church and the pastor said, listen, times are hard, times are challenging, couples are having problems, especially the married couples. And he had a way of talking that was very convincing. He said, the Lord told me. He said it that way, right? That's how they talk. Everybody who's having problems in their marriage, major problems in their marriage, you come to this altar right now. Wouldn't you know I would say 75% of the married couples went up there. Some of them crying, the wives crying. I was like, dang on. And it was a lot of them that portrayed everything was going on okay. Not that you're going to go out there and tell all your business, right? But they came clean. And they were an old 75-year-old couple. They waited. and they went up too. I'm not laughing at them. But, you get to that age, it's like, you got some major problems. Something's wrong. Doing something, and anybody can have problems. We understand that. But it is what it is. King of Founders Village. I'm just seeing you come on in. Welcome on in. Thank you so much for being here. Salute. It is what it is. The dysfunctions, man. And why? Like I said in the beginning of this talk, I know we have gone through great trauma, great pain in America. Slavery and that whole rate, it never stopped for us. That treatment never stopped for us. And this is the modern day. And, get over it, guy. It's the past. But it's still with us. The fear that's put into young boys, teenagers, because the mother's scared of them getting shot by police or messed up by police. And the apprehension is passed down. It's passed down that our sisters don't look as good as they are. So they change themselves and try to alter themselves. But yet and still, the slave master couldn't keep off of you. Right? I'm not saying your righteous good looks was a cause for somebody else to lust after you. It's not your fault that you were violated. But we live in a twisted world where the so-called rules have got to be torn down and we have to build everything back up again. But we have to face it. How are you going to build a new house and you don't tear down the old one? Well, leave that wall up and tear it all down and build it up new again. What's wrong with you? You can't bring the old stuff into the new. But our lives are riddled with such trauma that we don't want to even face it. You ever have a rough week? You're tired. You're going to work, coming home, and you got to clean that whole house. You might have a daughter or a son or family who will help you, but it's really you getting ready to do it. And you don't want to do it. And you let the weekend go by and you didn't do it. Now it's looking worse than it ever was before. That's how it is. That we'd rather play pretend and act like everything's all right when under the surface we have so many dysfunctions and old things that happen to us and the current things that have happened and things you see that you don't want to see. You got a man in your house. He's not the father of your children. And you're getting up in years. I don't mean like you 80 years old, but you're getting up in years. You're like, listen, I'm in my 30s or my 40s. We together. He's living with me. I got my children. I got my daughters. You can't do that because you don't know. You got to do things right and take time. And still, you don't know. You don't know. I told you before, I know this individual real good. He used to work with me on a particular job. And he got with his wife who had a 2-year-old child. The father of the child, I don't know where he is, if he was killed or died or whatever. But the young girl was 2 years old. And this grown-ass, intelligent appearing, very affluent in how he dealt with his money and had businesses. He had a job, good paying job, had different businesses, upright, always groomed, always smelling good, always got a good word, charismatic. But he was grooming that 2-year-old. As they got older, right? 5, 6, 7 years old, that little girl loved him, but he knew what he was doing. So when the wife was working, she still worked. She didn't have to, They had different schedules. He had no problem being left alone with her, the wife's daughter, his stepdaughter. But he was grooming her from young. And when she got pregnant at a very early age, she never admitted who the father was. How could this happen? She was always up under the father. But his wife, the child's mother, didn't put two and two together because she didn't want to. She was always with the father. When did she get out to get pregnant? Now, I know it doesn't take me 5 minutes, you could be pregnant. You getting it and sneaking it on the side of the house. I understand that. But that wasn't the setup. And he never knew. And he was always the father to console that daughter and actually take care, when he was off, of that next child. And the daughter, the wife's daughter, didn't want to go anywhere. She was, because he was the father. He had money too. He was always hooking her up. I mean, as you should if your child is doing well or whatever, but not to groom, not to spoil. So she didn't want for nothing. And because she was groomed this way, it was natural to her, even though she knew it wasn't right. I'm talking about the daughter. She get money, she home. The sexual feelings that are tampered with, that are not right at all. I don't know how that situation ended up. I know they weren't together anymore. The wife and the stepfather, I believe he went on to be with the daughter. But you knew her from 2 years old, man. I can't see it. Look, I used to compete as a bodybuilder. And there were little girls in the neighborhood that were 7 and 8. Oh, mommy, look at, he got these big muscles. I know you as a child. So here I am, 10 years older than you. You 8 and I'm 18. And I'm 38 now and I see you at 28. Oh my God, you really grew. Yes, I did. And you never knew. I always had a crush on you. What's your phone number? Sorry, sweetheart. I can't see you that way. Well, come on now. You ain't that much older than me. Yeah, but remember you were 8 years old. To me, you're a little girl. I cannot see you that way. Maybe if I didn't know you or something, you know what I mean? But nah. All I can see is an 8-year-old little girl. It ain't right in my head. So you're going to have a wife that has a daughter. And evidently you're probably changing the diapers and stuff. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that righteously. I'd prefer the mother to do that. Right? Not that I have wayward thoughts, but we'll keep everything as it should be. Because like I told you before, my daughters never sat in my lap. They sat on my knee. Was it because I had thoughts in my head? No. I did not want them to be comfortable sitting on any man's lap at a young age if a fleeting moment went by when they were not supervised. Oh, no. No way. So we got to be careful because we speak about the Black church. That's supposed to be the place to go. And we know we always have somebody who's wayward, but too many of us know things that are going on and we don't say a damn thing. We don't say a damn word about what's going on. We let it slide. I don't want to be the one I don't want to make no trouble. Trouble's going on already and affecting a child's life in a church. I got more action at the church than I did even in the street, to be honest. Aside from them women that, you know, pastors' daughters coming at me. I wasn't a victim. Hey, whatever. But they had so much pressure on them to be perfect, to be proper. That they had feelings too. And oh boy, when they let them feelings out, they went over and above the normal drive of a woman. And they have to live this dual life. There was another one that I knew that I grew up with. She was like that. She was gone with it. She mixed sexuality and religion together. Because that dichotomy, that dual thing turned her on. Come on, Lance. Let's go to the back of the church. Are we the same age? Let's go to the back of the church. Wait, I'm not going back there. Same church you're going to be in the next day? No, I'm not doing that. I feel funny. I wasn't going to church them times anyway. I could have done it. Friends said, why didn't you do it, man? To park in front of the pastor's house and do things and get busted? Nah. I'm not scared of them, but I'm just saying, why you want to go toward the line like that? They like that. And like Donnie McClurkin was saying, people in the church, in the bathrooms, in the stalls doing their thing. Why they have to be so, like, sacrilegious? Because, I mean, I don't care about the religion. I'm talking about the spirituality. They're wicked. And you wonder why these people, the demons are real. They're real. I've seen them with my eyes. I've seen it more in people where you don't see the ugly version that looks like something out of Hollywood. It's in the people. Let's use this banner here with the faces on there for a little bit. You can't tell who's who until you get around them. You can't tell. Oh, they're normal looking people. They're just black people. Yeah, it's white people too. It's everybody. But you can't tell. Like Trojan horses. They work hard to hide the hell that they have on the inside. And it comes out of the ways. We spoke about the sexual stuff, but it comes out with the jealous, hateful envy, where they are angry at fellow church members who are having the blessing of a brand new car when they might have been walking for 20 years. And they finally get something and you mad. Got a woman in church who never laid up with nobody, and she finally got a husband for herself. She waited, and you mad. But you done been with half the men in the church. You see what I mean? Every emotion and negative thing is there. I remember being in the church one time and what they call the first lady. How you gonna call the pastor's wife the first lady? So what, you the second or third lady? No, every woman is the first woman in their household. I understand the church hierarchy, but I never agreed with that. But the first lady, I'm tempted to call out the name. I ain't gonna do that. I know they're probably not even alive right now. You're right, Scrooge Greedy. No, seriously, straight up. Wildest. We'll put that across the preacher's daughters are the wildest, freakiest women on the planet. Yeah. Thought that was freaky. My God, Lord have mercy. Had me quoting scriptures. But yeah, that kind of thing inside of them. And how do you go from one to the other? How do you go from being this hateful, envious person and you hate the person, turn around and tell your neighbor, God is good, and you hate that person, and you shaking their hand and saying the same thing. God is good. Can't stand you. But the first lady of this particular church, they had the money, they had the nice life and everything. And this other lady had a bunch of kids. She was struggling, but she was making it. In the church hierarchy, she was paying her tithes. She did everything right. We know how they do. And this first lady was actively doing witchcraft juju on her simply because she had a better voice. The lady with all the kids, a better voice, more charisma, where she wasn't trying to flex on, but when she sung, she stirred the congregation. When the first lady sung, they respected her, but she didn't get the respect and notoriety and adulation that the lady with the kids, I'm saying it that way, like lady with the kids. I know their names, so I'm trying not to even like slip. The lady with all the kids that was struggling, they loved to see her coming because she was so genuine. So genuine. And so one day after the service, they were outside in the parking lot. And she's like, "Oh, your hair, it looks so nice." And she touched her hair and she let her do it. And later on, when she got home, there was 2 matchsticks glued together like a cross, still had the sulfur on them. And there was like ink markings on it. Now the matches were small, they were wooden. I know I can write real small, but there was something written on there, small, like letters. And she put it in her hair. And I remember the next 2 weeks, there was all kind of stuff being seen in that house. And I was spooked because I was going there all the time. But I saw something like a rat run across the bottom of the baseboard, but it wasn't no rat. Ching, ching, quick. Feet don't fail me now. Listen, I'll see you all tomorrow. I'm not coming over. I'm gonna wait a while. And that's back from the middle 70s, y'all. Yep. A lot of people hype stuff up. A lot of people add on to their stories and make it spectacular and Hollywood amping stuff up. But it's based on some real stuff. You don't have to worry as much about seeing something. Those things are real. A friend of mine was on TikTok earlier today. We'll try to get her on. She's been on the show years ago. Oh, she's very entertaining. I want to get her on where you see both our faces. Pretty, very attractive woman, but she don't play. She's kept herself up. She takes very good care of herself. She's not a saint either. But what you see is what you get. And I'll say she got more integrity than these old fake people out here. She gonna tell you like it is. But she was saying how there's something strange going on in her house because she'll wake up early or go to use the bathroom and peek down the steps, go downstairs into the kitchen, and all the kitchen cabinet doors are open. And she thought it was like her daughter playing games or something. So the daughter went away for a week and there's nobody else in the house. Well, guess what? The kitchen cabinets were all open. And that was something mild, but that would freak you out. Ain't nobody in here. I'm locked in. And she got a piece now. Anything come inside there, they're going to get it. And she would go up and it was always around 3 o'clock. 2:45, she peeked down there, ain't nothing happening. She'll fall asleep, wake up 3:30, cabinet's wide open. Isn't it something? I'd rather that than people that I'm looking at on this banner smiling at me and they got all kind of things going on, all kind of desires, all kind of twisted things they want to do with you sexually. And you got men and women who want to try you all kind of ways, whatever. Yeah, I don't never minded the women, but you know, I went with that same family to a church in Brooklyn one time. I'll never forget it. I believe it was August of 1982. 2 months before I took that picture of me on the stage, somebody did it. I don't know who it was. I was in good shape. When I wore my clothes, man, I was like, it was like I was a model. I'm not like, you know, I'm an old man talking about my younger days. So give me that. You know what I mean? I was sharp. But I went with them to a tent revival because we were going to go to their cousins that came up from down south at another cousin's house and hang out and spend the night over there with them. They got all the food and everything, macaroni and cheese. But man, shoot, I ain't gonna miss that. But we stopped by and went to the revival. God knows I wasn't into going into the church at that time. I was in there like checking out the girls. So they realized it, and this was a different church tent revival, a sister church to the ones that they went to. All of a sudden, this dude is next to me. Do you have a church home? I was trying to brush him off. I didn't want to really hear that. I mean, I'm not disrespectful, but you know, I'm send me one of those girls over there. I don't want, you know, do you have a church home? I said, yeah, but you know, Well, you don't go, do you? Would you consider yourself a backslider? You shouldn't ask me that, but I say, yeah, I'm sliding a whole lot and I'm loving it. I just want to get rid of the guy, you know? Well, if I can give you my number and I can help you out, and, you know, if you feel like you want to come back, we can sit down together and do some scripture, whatever have you. And, you know, I'm sitting here all masculine and full of testosterone. I don't want to meet up with you and sit down and read no scripture. Now, I wasn't blaspheming. I was saying about, you know, I'm going to find you. Yeah, we can spend 5 hours a day and sit down in your living room and do scripture. No, get one of them sisters over there for me. I'll sit down all night and we'll go through some scriptures. Unbelievable. And then there's another one. Hello, my friend, I saw you here. And their voices didn't sound right. They weren't all high, some were low. I looked around, there's like 5 or 6 dudes standing around me, like waiting. Can I have a word with you? Oh, no, I talked to him already. And then the gay voices started coming out. Well, I did see him second, and I saw him before you saw him. I was like, listen, they had one of them little, it wasn't a little small bathroom, the portable things. It was a bigger thing that you can go in, but it was like a big portable thing. I said, listen, I'll be back. I'll see y'all. I went in there. I'm taking a leak. Listen, I was the first. I said, man, listen, I'm trying to take a leak, man. Don't bug me with this stuff. I said, what are y'all, gay? They got quiet. I said, I'm not with that stuff. Here you are using God's word to try to get next to me because you see I'm kind of well built. Because the way I was built at that time, you couldn't hide it through the clothes. It wasn't tight. Hey, look at that. And they still were hanging. Well, if you change it, I said, I'm not changing my mind. My mind is made up. I'm not sitting up nowhere with no gay man. No, look, the way they came at me, like they're going to turn me? No. There's a lot of gay people I've known, done business with. They were cool with me. You like that, I like this, whatever. So, I mean, come on, why is it always going to be that way? I understand how women feel sometimes. Everywhere you turn, here's some guy looking at you. He's at the red light. Here's some guy looking at you. He's with his wife in the supermarket. Here's some guy, you walking down the street. You think nobody's looking at you. Look up, this guy smiling at you, winking at you. You might have to go to the bathroom or be on your period, or maybe you got a little scarf on your head. You just ran into the store real quick. You don't want to hear that. It's just all the time. And it's worse on both ends. And it's really worse in the church. Everything is going on in the church. Now, if you got like a little storefront and probably like 12 members, and they're all like over 60 years old, I'm not going to say it's like that. But church is a business, y'all. And if it was doing what it was supposed to do, we wouldn't be in the state that we're in. It's escapism for the most part. Hold on and wait. Hold on and wait. Hey, instead of holding on and waiting for something to busting out the sky, why don't we clean up the dusty room that our lives have been? Huh? Why don't we do that? We're stepping past what needs to be dealt with, but we're looking up in the sky. We're the only ones like that. As a race of people, waiting. You got your brain, you got your muscles, whether they're small or large or whatever. You're intelligent. You know how to scheme and creep and tip around. We can get great things done, but we're distracted and we're compromised and we're in denial, and our escape is a decadence that we do, and we dress it up. I'm going to say it again. You have the right to smear chocolate icing on cake icing on feces, but don't hand it to me and tell me it's chocolate cake, because I'm going to make you take the first bite. When you got somebody in the movies and trying to spike a drink and the person's hip to it, oh, well, you take a first sip. No, you take a sip. No, I think you spiked this drink. You take a sip of this. And people come with their smiles, and they're no better than a spiked drink to come into your life and infiltrate you with all kind of weird spirits. See, that's how it worked. That's how negative energy works. I'm not even gonna say demon or no, negative energy. It doesn't want to go toward the other negative energies that are doing the same thing. It wants to go to something pure that's not into it, to indoctrinate it into their thing. Misery loves company. They love to violate. Negative energy loves to violate. They see a virgin. Leave her alone so she can go find a man one day and be married and have kids and give him the innocence. No, but you want to get it and run around. Yeah, he think he married her. I had her back 5 years ago. He ain't got nothing that I ain't got. What kind of arrogant spirit is that? Want to violate. Yeah, he walking with his wife, but I know his wife want me. The way she be looking at me. And half the time you imagining something. Let me take a sip, y'all. Woo! Wow. So much crossing my mind. I'm gonna wrap it down soon. I'm not even like 1/10 of the way through. I'm gonna do this once a week on dysfunctions. I'll title it maybe a little different. But we got to talk about certain things. I want to start a dysfunctional movement so we can air out other people's dysfunctions or things we've experienced. Because we make sure to dress up so nicely. We make sure to say the right words. We make sure to walk holy. Fellas walking down the street with their Sunday best, and this chick who's worldly got these tight jeans on tight, and they want to turn around and look at her butt so bad, but they have to play the role. I was never like that. I was never a predator. But if I wanted to look back in the day, I'm looking. Not playing no role. No. But I was always respectable. But I saw everything. And I was never delusional. And that's why a lot of folks didn't like me, because I wouldn't call it out and yell it out. But when they see, and they can see what you're all about, even though you might be doing some little decadence yourself, but not as a predator, they already know he can see me. And when you can see them for who they are, they will not like you. They'll try to blame you for the things that they're doing. Negative energy. Because we can still read each other. I don't care who you are. I don't care what state the black man or the black woman is in. They're still very sensitive. They can be high on drugs. When they see that you don't get down like that, they know you clean. Oh, no, I can tell, man. He don't do that, man. He don't do that sugar on the ass, dude. And it makes them feel dirty. You come home from the club at daybreak, and you see folks get ready to go to church. Not that you feel that you had to go to church, but they're up, fed, rested, clean, and you coming in. I wasn't a person who drank. And if I was in a club, I was usually like working as a bouncer there or something. I was beyond clubs. I wasn't a club person. I would go when I was much younger with my old girlfriend. I wasn't into that. But I would still come in the wee hours. Oh, man. I didn't drink or anything. I still felt bad. I felt unclean. Look at him coming in this time of the morning. But some of them people, they might have been up early to go to church, but they had all kind of decadence going on in their household too. And I actually spoke to somebody the other night who was in that proximity. So I'll talk about those things another time. I know she's not going to call it and reveal it with me. She wouldn't even talk with me about it. I know that because I would be exposing too much. So I'll have to do it in a real roundabout way. Mix up the stories a little bit. You know what I mean? Anyway, I am going to wrap it down. Right now in West Africa, Ghana, it is, what is it? 12:16. Yeah. And when I would see 12:16 before, it didn't hit me as hard. But just, I was up from early today and I did a whole lot of things in here. That's why I'm feeling it. But I will be back on tomorrow evening, back live again. Any suggestions of titles or shows, or I'm always open for that. It's not like, no, we have this schedule and I have to adhere to it. The next slot is another 3 weeks. No, I'm flexible. Just tell me. But I mean, we'll get that and do it. Because, you know, at this point in my life, I'm at that old man stage where I can talk about anything on a whim. You know, they have the big clay things they throw up, and the guys have the rifles, and bang, and it explodes. You throw a topic up, I'm gonna hit it right on point. Boom, because I live life. I don't have to rehearse. Well, let me go, unless it's something where it's a specific happening. And how long does it take to get it? Let me just read the story for a couple of minutes, and I can formulate something, and we can find the angle to come at it with. You see what I mean? So we do it like that. But I had a good time, and I'm just so glad to see everybody here. And I'm going to sign off. Just thank you for being here. Liz Delgado, yes. Look at what the wind blew in, right? I acknowledge everybody already. My throat is really dry. I'm going to have to eat a little something and hit the sack. I usually like to go down and hit every name, but I did already, and I hope I didn't miss anybody. So I want to keep some real topics like this going on in and mix it up with my experiences. You know, I think it's entertaining. I don't think I'm all that. Anybody wants to come in and talk about what they've been through, say, hey, Lance, drop the link. I want to come on in and say something. I'm always open for that. You know what I mean? So I'm going to eat a little something to put more calories in me, drink a little liquid. Then I'm going to hit the sack, get up, repeat the process. I'll probably record something. We do another live tomorrow night and write a couple of articles during the day as I go around. I got it down to an art, y'all. I could be out in the street and on my phone, I'm writing, writing my articles. Come home and drop it, check the punctuation, everything. Boom, throw it up. That's how we do. Anyway, much love to you all. I will see you. And like I said, this whole church thing that's going on, it's infested. I see more sincerity in the street, more transparency in the street, more people who are like, listen, this is what I do, but guess what? You know, I'm real about it. That toxic, hidden, emotionally constipated situations in the churches and in the community, I believe that that'll knock off 10, 15 years off our life. Seriously. Just holding that stuff in. Can't do it. Anyway, much love to you all, folks. I love you all. Thank you so much. Take care.